tuned into the podcast, killing everybody, taking dog tags. Dog, this is awesome. It's Optimus Prime and your quadrant and talking to you. Got that? I was in a mind when I crafted this. The dungeon master's wrath with the dash is sick. I dash like Sonic, mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist the tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us, the master race. Take him with a master hand, it's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make a nice sword, but I wonder how 4 guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, well, thanks for listening to the Trinity Force podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Coxwell, and I am your host for this evening.
What just happened?
I had a stroke.
He started out like super high energy, and then
It died.
It just went. So guys, thanks for joining us on this awesome Friday, the day before or actually this is the 4th of July if you're listening to it, unless it's Wednesday and you're listening live. Like we say every week, if you want to watch us live, you can catch us on twitch.tv/Tforce podcast. We go live at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Mondays and Wednesdays. You guys can check out the replay on youtube.com/Tforce podcast, where we post all the battle arenas and all the live podcasts the day after they happen, or sometimes the day of. Other than that, TrinityForcePodcast.com, you guys know where to find us. So, because we have a lot to talk about this week, we're going to jump right into our ads, and then we're going to start talking about patch 4.11. Well, first and foremost, DeClawed is not with us tonight because he does not have power down in backcountry,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Wherever he's at,
But isn't he in
our
Philly?
prayers go out to him being
No,
without power.
he's in the middle of nowhere.
He's north.
Best of luck to
he's
you, buddy.
northeast, right?
Don't get raped by hobos.
Okay, then. So,
Well,
you know what you feed hobos? You feed them granola. You like that
oh
segue?
my god.
No, that was awful.
Oh shit, Dama and Chira are swapped again. Well,
Oh,
somebody else
why?
do it while I fix the overlay.
So, if you haven't heard us talk about Gather's Granola, the past time that we've talked about it, you guys should go check out our little promotion with them at bit.ly/Tforce Granola and use the special offer code TForceGG and get yourself some of this delicious stuff, because I
It's
promise you won't regret it, and it's absolutely delicious, and I'm really surprised I even have the 2 bags I have left, because I'm just a disgusting slob who loves to eat all the time.
Yeah, you definitely have consumed more of it than I have, which isn't to say I haven't been eating it. I just
Yes.
tiny stuff.
So if you
I
want
guess.
more of it and you don't feel like going online, if you don't feel like going to bit.ly/Tforce Granola and using the code
so good.
TForceGG to buy any, if you don't feel like doing that, you can go find it at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and there's it's 11 states in the northeastern region that take care of it. The Gatherers Gourmet Granola. They don't sacrifice taste for price. Instead, it's a little more pricey, but you get the best tasting granola that's going to be out there on the market.
And it's gluten-free and no added sugar, so
It has solved my daytime at work snacking problem.
It's
it was a
become my
dilemma.
breakfast.
It was a crisis that I faced. No more. It's gone.
It's gone. He's no longer hungry.
I'm
during
so
the day.
happy. Yeah.
But unlike our fans who are hungry for more patch news, I have to fill some shoes tonight. So segue!
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
All right, let's move in. Guys, again, go check out Gatherers Gourmet Granola, and we would love it if you did that for us. So let's go and talk about patch 4.11. Fastest news we've had to date. We have bounty rewards, turrets, Braum nerfs, Hybrid Digger, Jax, Karthus, Kayle, Lucian, big nerf, Maokai, Nidalee, Nautilus, Rengar, Skarner, Vladimir, Yasuo, Zac, and Ziggs. Look at all of those champions that got changes. Not to mention, there is a new jungle item, and Machete got changed along with that, so we're going to cover that starting now. So first and foremost, we're going to go from top to bottom with these patch notes.
Okay. If you must.
We will. So the 2 big first changes that happen in this patch are now bounty rewards are now 75% of a normal value, scaling up to 100% at 4 minutes. So before it was 280 gold for first blood? Now it's 300 gold. If I get that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sure.
295, 300 gold. Yeah, it was about 280 gold for first blood. And now
It was 280 before, now it's
280 now it's
225.
first blood bonuses are unaffected by early kill reward limitations, so first blood in the first 2 minutes of the game will now give 325 gold.
Which is enough.
Which is up from 280 gold, so we were close.
Yeah.
The kill streak bounty, however, personal bounty has been increased by 16.5 well, increases by 16.5% from 20%. So kill streak bounties are a little bit lower now than they were before.
And it takes you another kill to get to that 500 gold bounty maximum rather than 4 kills, which is what it was prior.
Which I like that, because before it was 3 kills to get some kind of bounty, and then as soon as you got one more and you're on, that unstoppable kill streak or whatever they call it, you need 2 more kills to get to that point. So you can't get a quadra kill and then be worth 500 gold.
You ace them. I mean, you're doing pretty well anyway then.
Yeah.
Right.
It's. I think that's really most of these changes go for the LCS rather than normal play.
Yeah, I don't actually see this being a big deal for day-to-day summoning.
It kind of is. Starting with 325 gold can actually
that's a nice change, but I'm actually a fan of that because now you'll get early game.
Stop
What were
eating
you shaking
granola.
your head?
He's
Okay,
eating
you're
his fucking
him.
granola.
I thought you were shaking your head at me. No, now you get early game shenanigans going on. There's actually incentive to go back into the jungle and fuck with somebody or catch somebody because if nothing else, you get first blood. Now you got boots. That's a big advantage in lane. Doesn't matter where you are. That's a huge advantage in your lane.
That was one of the first things they brought up too, is that they had felt that they needed to change this so that if you got first blood, you did come back with something. And kind of adding to what we talked about last week, where Dom, you yourself put so much of a bonus on having move speed. That move speed early can make a huge difference. So I'm glad this change went through.
If you get to lane and otherwise everything else being equal, you have boots over your opponent. That's huge. You're going to dodge so many skill shots. You're going to just take far less auto attack harass.
Position way better.
If you're a marksman or a mid laner or something like that, you're going to catch a few of those last hits you might otherwise would have missed because you had gotten too far out of range trying to dodge shit or something.
I like the fact that you are now able to pick something up after the fact. Before, if you had that 280 gold, all you could go back and pick up with some potions. And potions and a ward, which is great. We've talked about the value of having those extra wards, and so you can stay longer in lane.
People who aren't supports actually buy wards.
It was nice if you were a top laner and got that, because you could go get a pink ward and just drop it in the bush, and you would have a pink ward for 5 minutes at least.
Yeah, you were definitely safe.
Especially if the enemy top laner wasn't checking for one, they probably wouldn't even notice it was there till 5 or 6 minutes anyway.
When they went to throw their ward down, it's like, oh.
They knew the whole time.
And another change that I think this changes it's an LCS change again, because I feel like Riot has it out for the 2v1. They just hate that people are doing 2v1s, and this is computer speculation. Obviously, I don't know, but
no, they said in the patch
they brought that up
with World Championships on the horizon. They're focusing a lot of changes towards that.
Well, I mean, I feel like they were they just want to eliminate 2v1s altogether.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that was pure speculation there. I can't actually say that that's what their point is. But turrets now gain 37.5% damage per hit. So it hits harder on the first hit. It selects a target slightly faster than before. And the turrets now finish warming up after 2 hits.
So it doesn't take the 3 shots to start doing full damage to you anymore. It's 2 shots and you're taking extreme amounts of damage. Which sucks early if you're trying to dive.
I take a lot of early turret hits just trying to get those aggressive kills, and a lot of times I get out of there, and this might screw me now.
This is going to screw a lot of people that are used to turret diving, because turrets really the damage hasn't really changed on turrets in the last year or so. And now that you're essentially taking, you're taking more damage, and you're taking it more quickly because you're taking it in 1 less shot. So the amount of damage you would take in 3, you're taking in 2 instead. And it's going to target somebody more quickly when you get in there. So you're going to take that damage a half a second or whatever it may be quicker than you did before. So it's just there's gonna be all sorts of problems with people turret diving. Ranhurt, he's
I was about to say
tombstone.
In a way, this really, really hurts anybody who makes risky turret plays on champions that don't have ways to like Elise to dip out really quickly or something like that. Even though
how do you turret dive at level 3 now if you have that all in?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have your jungler up there and your aggro swapping, you're both going to be taking that. You're taking I don't know how to put it. You're taking one less hit to do more damage.
Or
No.
even if, say, your jungler is coming to go for like a 3-on-2 dive at bottom, and they're sitting at like 3/4 health now, that damage might be just enough to make the difference in the 2 being able to stave off the 3 and actually turn that gank into something good for the 2v3.
I'm not sure. Like, I really don't like changes of this type this deep into the competitive season. At this, so I mean, teams have been playing under certain pretty well-known conditions for. I mean, by the time this rolls around, it's going to be like what, 9 weeks?
9 weeks.
Still have been playing.
competitive.
Yeah, 9 weeks for competitive LCS. Never mind OGN, LPL, GPL, everything else. I mean, to suddenly throw these, like even these types of little changes, have a really, really big impact on the game.
We saw
last.
Sorry, Trinity Force.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, Trinity Force just changed the entire scope of Worlds just due to that one, like, change to that one item.
The Phage
Made
and the
Jax
cost.
amazing.
Yeah.
Made Corki amazing.
Ezreal.
Lucian.
Lucian wasn't there last
Lucian
year.
wasn't available.
Oh,
It,
yeah.
it was Corki, Ezreal, Vayne for the most part last year.
The
And
Corki.
Genja,
The
Genja
Corki
played
thing.
Kog'Maw and
Yeah.
bought
The Corki
bought
thing
Trinity
kills
Force, and
me.
you made so much fun of him at the time, and now that's the Kog'Maw build.
It was because it was harder for it to proc, is why. Like he didn't have the skill shot Q to proc it.
I know, it's still funny to me.
Right.
I just love how that completely made it so Corki was picked rather than you don't see him at all, and he's just amazingly good
that's
again.
the big problem right now. Corki isn't that. I mean, he's good in solo queue, but if you don't have your Trinity Force by 15 minutes on Corki right now,
You're hurting.
You're useless because all the other champions hit their spikes. Because there is no good build path on Corki. You have to build Triforce first, and you have to have it by 15 minutes to do your damage. And if you don't get that far, you have no other build option to go down. Because
Well, you're just super behind.
I agree with everything you just said, but that applies to every other marksman and whatever big item they're supposed to get first.
No, because
Corki just happens to be Trinity Force as opposed to.
that's not true. Because other
Infinity.
champions can build other items that are going to help their damage more
No,
than Corki is. But like you could build. Corki has to build those. The build path to get the Trinity Force doesn't have as big as spikes as when you're moving down the build path. Like a pickaxe is
Again,
going to give.
I
champion.
wasn't disagreeing with what you were saying about
I know.
Corki and Trinity Force. I'm saying that if you by 15 minutes don't have that first big item on any marksman, you are in terrible shape comparatively. You're not where you're supposed to be. That's all I was getting at.
No, I'm not
Trinity
I'm
Force
not trying to
just
argue with
Trinity
you.
Force
either.
happens to be Corki's item.
Yeah, but anybody else during that 15-minute time can actually pick up other little items that help them, that give them more than if Corki was to pick up those little items, like Vamp Scepter.
But the flip
and
side is
Lucian.
he's getting little items to get to his big one anyway.
Sure. I don't know. The only thing he gets big out of that is the Phage.
You don't have to
and
like the
and
champion.
Sheen.
You don't have to like the champion. If you don't like Corki, you don't like Corki. It's
I
not a
like
big deal.
Corki. I don't like that. The two items that he gets the most use out of with the Phage and the Sheen, each are 1,200 gold. And by 15 minutes, if you haven't by 15 minutes, somebody else is if you haven't finished that, the other person's gonna have finished the larger item more than likely than you. And if you finish by 15 minutes, you're at least on even ground for that. It's kind of like the Essence Reaver conversation where you have a window on Corki after you pick up that item where you are ahead of the person because you've picked up that full, the full gambit.
Or there's even people like Kog'Maw who can pick up a T-Force at the same time or slightly later than Corki. And just because of the passive things baked into Kog'Maw's kit, he's going to pull more weight later on in the game if he can't necessarily get like crazy going item-wise. He's still going to do a lot of just baked-in damage with his W.
Well, Corki actually does deal a lot of damage between the armor shred that he's got going on
His
and
AP.
the passive true damage that he has. Like, he actually does deal a lot more damage if you focus on a conventional AD build for him, but his abilities don't scale with it, and Sheen just gives him so much extra burst that's still the optimal way to go.
Right.
You can go the normal route, but you don't chunk the way that you expect to as Corki.
Well, you
And-
sacrifice your power at the point of the game when you need it as Corki.
yeah,
By going the other routes. So That's why you're better off picking a Lucian or a Kog'Maw. And later on in this patch, they actually talk about Lucian a little bit and how they're still on the radar to change. It'll be interesting. I do like the next change they make in this patch. The experience range has been increased to 1400 on lane minions. I actually like that because there's a lot of times going from the red buff to bottom lane where you're just out of range to get that experience, and now you can help your laners out and still get that minion.
I would need to check the ranges, but I think it means that I'll be able to stand in some brushes a little more aggressively or go out further to ward and that type of thing and not have to worry about losing experience. I know it's been accidentally affecting mid laners when junglers are...
People have been bitching about junglers stealing mid lane XP while they're farming wraiths if mid lane's pushed to their turret.
That's funny.
So,
it is funny. Honestly, I'm okay with that. If it's getting pushed that, I mean, it sucks if that swings the matchup, but
I don't.
If
like
not,
it's
I mean, it could be a nice boost for the jungler. If the jungler gets that extra level, that could be a big difference maker in the next team fight, the next gank, whatever.
Yeah, the next gank mid, that might be the difference. Sure, the mid laner is slightly behind, but then you have two people that are relatively even on power going in against one. If it's not somebody like LeBlanc who can just immediately dip out or gets a pretty big advantage being a level ahead, that can be a big change.
I get the argument for it and why you might be happy, but I don't agree that he should be getting passive experience just because he's farming his jungle. That's he's not
okay, I'll give you that.
I can agree with that.
I expect they will reduce that range by 50 to have it not really affect anybody else and then remove that jungle tax.
I was supposed to say, it's a difference if like the jungler's sitting in the brush in mid, like waiting to go in, and maybe he's stealing some XP while he's there and the wave's in the middle of the lane, but I don't like, at the end of the day, I don't like stealing XP from a laner if they're minding their own business and I'm minding mine.
I don't know, did this change ever get documented on the PvE, or did they just sort of make it based on
They just threw this in from what I know.
Yeah, I don't recall reading about this. If it is, I can absolutely see it being the type of thing that just nobody picked up on the PvE.
Right.
Like, people get so excited about other Maokai changes, for example. People get so excited about that type of stuff that they don't pay attention to those little things, and that's why it made it to live.
Well, there was also there's a Zac change later on. We'll talk about that. Wasn't documented wasn't in the surrender at 20 patch notes we were looking at.
And those, I mean, it's not like they release exhaustive patch notes. Mubi's just trying to parse those together from data mining and such. So.
And it could have gone. It could have. I don't know why. Yeah, it's just weird. But let's go ahead and move on to the champions that have been changed. Now, this one kind of tickles me a little bit because Braum. They've been changing so much about him between his stand behind and his unbreakable. Is that his E?
I believe so. Yeah, I'll look it up. But yeah.
That they've been changing damage reduction and how much armor he gains and other things like that. We've been talking about for the longest time that his passive really was the reason that he was so strong because anybody can proc it. And it finally took them 3 patches to nerf
figure it out.
passive.
You were right, Adam. It's unbreakable.
Thank you. I just guessed.
They finally got there. They finally picked up on the passive being the problem.
Yeah. So debuff time to proc stun is now 4 seconds from 5. So you only have 4 seconds to proc the stun after you hit them, either with an auto attack or his Q. What is his Q called?
Winter's Bite.
Winter's Bite, that's it. And his passive now does 50 plus 12 damage per level rather than 70 plus 10. So a lot of the early damage has been removed to make up for it. And he gets the damage back later on his kit.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. He was supposed, the idea behind him was he was supposed to be bad during laning because it was supposed to be difficult to really get concussive blows to regularly happen. And then his damage was supposed to be lower early. Damage and defense was supposed to be lower early on, but then he became just this unmovable, you can't shoot through him machine. And that was it was almost the inverse of that. He was so dominant during laning, and then people felt like he didn't do anything late game. So
right.
He still is really right now. I would say Lucian Braum is one of the strongest lanes, if not the strongest in the game, because all Braum has to do is hit them once with the Q, and Lucian will proc the passive.
But that's, one potential duo out of how many?
Right. Well, it's funny. It's pretty much Lucian everybody. Lucian Thresh is a super stupid strong lane.
Lucian's just good because he has everything.
And it's been for the longest time, back when Lucian was played, I did say, and someone will find on the podcast, that as long as Lucian has that double attack, he's going to be good. As long as he has his passive. Because 2 attacks, obviously, is always better than 1.
Well, I mean, look, he fell out of favor for a little while, and then he came back, and they didn't even make any changes during that time.
The reason he
ridiculous.
fell out of favor is because they made some changes to Triforce. It's the same
Right.
reason that Corky fell out, and that was the go-to item on Lucian when when people finally picked him up, because he had, I think, one of the slowest adoption rates of all champions they've ever released.
Really?
If Xenon the Stoic is to be believed on
Not
that
like
account.
Quinn or anybody else like that. Like
No, Lucian had one of the slowest adoption rates ever. Just like people, I think they didn't get behind the concept of him. That people didn't understand how to play him right out of the gate.
Well, we bitched
and
about his ultimate forever.
we bitched about him. We didn't think he was any good. And then people finally, once the Triforce change happened, people realized like, oh, actually, if I just build the normal damage items and then get a Triforce later or whatever,
His damage is
really
good.
His damage is really good. He's not this weird bursty
If I
thing.
buy a Blade of the Rune King and a Yomu's, I can kill anybody I want.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah, I mean, we hated on Lucian for a long time.
we did. We hated on his ultimate. Now I don't feel like I now actually feel like his ultimate does damage. Or
Because you're building damage on him.
yeah, because you're actually building. I don't remember what I was
Surprise.
building when I was playing him before. To be honest with you, like I don't remember what
When
I
you
was.
first started,
It was-
you were even on the PBE. You said, "Should I get Triforce on this guy?" And I thought, no, because his abilities all scale so well with AD. But the burst on Triforce at the time was just so ridiculous that
That was
it
the
outweighed
thing.
everything.
Where we had kind of decided that Triforce was good if you could get it early enough to just proc it and be annoying, but Bloodthirster won out early if you couldn't just rush all the pieces of the Triforce.
Okay.
I crunched the numbers on it, and the Bloodthirster path was better,
Right.
but you didn't harass as well with it.
Right.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. We'll talk about Jax next. Jax finally eating nerfs. And
Don't think they're enough.
I don't think
at
they're
all.
enough either.
But
Actually,
it's a start.
I feel like Jax is sort of falling out of favor because of the teleport change, more or less. That's the reason he's fallen out of favor. I think in solo queue he'll still be fine, but base health is now 535 from 561. Health per level has been decreased to 85 from 98, and armor per level has been decreased to 3 from 3.5. And
Okay.
What was your? You said this a couple patches or a couple episodes ago, Dom. Do you remember how much life was it 200 life he has less at max or
Like
something?
250, 260 something, I think, that he ends up losing by endgame. That's a considerable amount.
But does he still fall in like the top 10 champions with like at the end of the game scaling health? Because I know he was like third or second prior to this change. So
I'll check.
there were only
I
two
don't-
people that had better
Was Maokai
base
one of them?
health. Maokai was one of them, and I believe Scion was the other.
Okay.
I don't think he's in the top 10 anymore.
I don't
It's
think so
really a
either.
pretty big cluster.
Well, considering he dropped, what is that, 13 life per level? Right? 5, 6, 7, yeah, 13 life per level.
So technically, I'm right. He's not top 10. He
He's
is
11.
11.
Of course.
Wow.
But
You'd be
out of
surprised by
100,
some of the people in front of him, though.
out of
You'd be surprised
100,
by one person in front of him.
really?
Well, okay, so these changes right now, I feel like these are laning changes, really, because when we've said before, when you hit level 3 with Jax, you can kind of all in somebody, or at least you stand a chance against anybody who isn't ranged, because he can, if you properly manage your stun and your mana, you can do quite a bit of damage to somebody, and all you have to do is survive to get to 6 to do any kind of damage. This kind of brings him back in par with other people who had a tough time with him before, or kind of went along. Like I think an Aatrox will do pretty fine against him now. Kayle, we might see her more of the top lane playing into him. Olaf will do pretty good.
Right.
We won't see a lot of that. Master Yi in solo queue. Rengar is gonna, like, all these champions that you see in the top lane.
Here's the other thing too, though. Another big part with Jax was if you could get an edge over him early and force him out, you could zone him away from the minions to kind of keep him down. And with the experience change, you can't do that as well because there's a bigger area for him to just get passive experience sitting way far away.
I
So
don't feel like enough people are going to put stock into how much that extra experience range is going to help.
I don't either.
That actually helps 2v1s. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Helps 2v1s a ton.
Well, that was one of their big things. That and the turret change were just main things to deal with the 2v1 sort of situation.
So the other thing is the health per level gains, like take him from top 5 health per level to solidly just in the middle, right, with basically everybody else. And I mean, it's the health per level that's actually the bigger deal, because suddenly come level level 3, level 6, that type of thing, you are not nearly as durable as you thought you were.
I'm saying if you jungle him and you just get the new Spirit of the Ancient Golem, though, it doesn't matter.
Won't. That item is pretty good. It's pretty good.
No, I think we'll still see Jax. I don't think it's enough to take him out of competitive play, at least.
He's not going to be as strong again because of the teleport and these changes, but he's still going to be a late game nightmare if the enemy team lets him get the late game. That's just what that champion is. You don't want to fight him after 40 minutes. He's going to kill you.
Sooner or later, I think what they're going to look at is his passive.
Right, so he doesn't gain as much free stats, and so he has to take the decision of how do I want to build my.
He gets a lot of free attack speed, and I think that's what they're ultimately going to.
Well, he gets his ultimate. He gets a lot of free defensive stats when he pops it. So that's another reason. And I think a lot of people forget that when they play him, that you get so much defense before when you pop it to go in.
So it starts at 25 each armor MR, and then by third rank it's at 45. If they drop that down just by 5 at each rank, is that enough to do it, or does it need a little bit more? 10?
It would need a significant nerf.
Or drop 5 off the first rank, 7 off the second one, and 10 on the third.
Probably. That would be I think that would be a significant nerf to his.
That would be a big nerf.
Viability.
I think 5 would because you don't want to make him. I think you don't want to make him unviable, but right now he's dominant, and that's the difference. Like there is a difference between viable and dominant.
Well, and these
but he's
changes.
not dominant in competitive play is the thing.
Competitive play is not the only part of the game.
Sure, but you can't nerf it. He's not that dominant in solo queue either. Like his win rate isn't outrageous right now, is it?
If he had a really huge win rate and ranked, not just
he's got the highest ban rate of all champions.
Well, that's fine, but he's just annoying.
His win rate's at 51.27, so he is above average here. It's not unreasonable, but part of the reason his win rate, I think his win rate's probably deflated because he gets banned so much. Mm-hmm. Like people are taking him he's so taken out of play that. He's either picked or banned. That's the state of Jax. And if that's the state of a champion, then I consider him dominant, not just viable.
His win rate in competitive isn't that great over the past couple weeks, though.
But
that's the problem I have.
Not the only part of the game.
I realize that.
No, the problem I have with nerfing something for the normal play, I don't mind the 100% ban, the whole Kassadin problem. With only 3 bans, yes, I understand, and yes, I get your arguments, not just yours, Dom, but anybody's arguments of why you shouldn't have 100% ban in the game, but it doesn't bother me so much because he still has to be in a masterful hands to be able to do well in the game. Yes, at 40 minutes, at that point, you can roll your face across the keyboard, but you have to get to that point.
That's why I think it doesn't really affect, that type of small adjustment doesn't really affect competitive play as much because when you, when you put him Jax in master hand, he's not winning all games because you're up against players who know exactly how to deal with Jax, who know how to build entire strategies around dealing with Jax. And that's not the case in solo queue play.
Well, you also have to keep in mind the other piece of this is that nobody was really picking up Jax for the most part in solo queue until he started to see success at a competitive level anyway. And he had great success at a competitive level for a couple weeks. Until people started, learning how to deal with it again. It might be one of those things where the psychic shock of just the fact that he was crushing everybody, and now with these nerfs and the teleport nerfs and whatever, everybody's still absolutely terrified of a champion who has been toned back a decent amount. But it's one of those things at lower elo, people are terrified of a Mumu. We don't see a Mumu picked ever in competitive. Amumu is still good. Again, shock value mechanics, but Jax doesn't have a shock value mechanic that can completely win a team fight by himself with one ability. It's one of those things I think that...
But he requires considerable attention from a team. If Jax is modestly successful, it takes 3 people to shut him down. Jax can go split push. 3 people have to go shut him down.
I'm going to stop you right there just because I know what you're saying and where you're going, but I think that the changes that Riot have implemented right now
address
some of that issue. And
if nothing else, it's a good start. If nothing else, it's a good start. I'm just saying, like, the other changes that like the little things could bring Jax actually back in line, so he's still playable, still perfectly viable, but he's not dominant, and that was what started this whole argument.
I'm happy with the slow kind of dialing back of his power anyway, because I'd rather see it that way rather than just, hey, everybody's playing Olaf in competitive play, and now I can't play him anymore because he's useless.
And heck, you two were the ones that said that you didn't think this change was enough.
It's probably not enough. It's probably not enough. No, you're right. It's probably not enough, but I do think this is a great start and a great way to deal with it.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, pretty much Sean took all the words out of my mouth that I wanted to say about Jax. So we need to talk about Kayle. We had talked about this a little bit before. The Righteous Fury bonus ability power ratio is now 0.2. Her attack speed has been nerfed to 2.2, and intervention cooldown has been increased to 110, 95, 80 from 90 to 75, 60. Intervention.
That needed to happen a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't believe they left they made the cooldown or let the cooldown be as short. You know, because she was overpowered a year ago. That's why Dignitas was winning games in the Spring Split Season 3.
Right.
Was because Scarra played Kayle so well.
As much as we talk about how Jax is overpowered and stuff, I honestly think Kayle is at the exact same level. People just don't give her the same amount of respect.
Well, I think it's because their ultimate's harder to use than Jax. It's not a base roll.
It's harder to use, and like Kayle buys extra time, but she doesn't she doesn't require like the exact same level of focus that Jax does. She puts the same pressure on. I'll give you that. But
I did read
she will
today,
still 3-shot you.
So I was reading Twitter today, and I think it was Chuper. Is it Chuper? Is that his name? Cheuper.
Yeah, I think it's Chuper.
Yeah, Chuper had said that he crunched the numbers. He didn't add any numbers. You know how pro gamers are. And he was like, I think that Kayle's will now start buying Hurricane earlier as a second item rather than a third item because of the damage decrease to Righteous Fury. So now you can push waves as you'll be split pushing more often than you'll be pushing hard. So that was Chuper's take.
I mean, Kayle is cool because you can play her in any role and she will succeed. That's also why she ends up being such a problematic champion, and it might be a case where they just never figure out how to fix her and get her to a point where she's playable but not overwhelming. Because she's either great or terrible.
Right.
Well,
that's been the ebb and flow of Kayle.
Even when she's great and terrible, sometimes they don't change a thing, and she just falls in and out of popularity based on the whims of whoever feels like playing her at the time, and she's still ridiculously good. So
yeah, it might just be like where they ultimately have to take her back to the drawing board and sort of redefine what they want to do with that champion. Right. I can completely see that happening.
With the amount of attack speed that she gains, it makes sense to start reducing Righteous Fury's ability power ratio because it's hitting everybody that's around it.
And if she didn't have that AD ratio on, I mean, like, fine, they keep hitting her ability power ratios and everything. People are just going to go back to building AD on her then. It's not like they've ever touched those.
Yeah, they're pilling her out of the top.
Blade of the Rune King Kayle with a hurricane.
Or just go full hybrid and get Ginsu's and Triforce and just like wreck shit.
So you're doing a wrecker build where you alt yourself and get back to full life when you're with Ginsu's.
Hilariously, it works on her. Mm-hmm. Right. Like she's the only champion that can buy that item, and it actually is brilliant.
Well, cool. You get her low, so the proc part of Ginsu's works. Ult yourself. Hey, you're back to full health, and you just shat all over who you're fighting.
Yeah, because at that point you have so many stacks on Ginsu's and everything, you're just shredding the hell out of your target.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Lucian. So patch notes for Lucian had a giant change from very strong yes, still yes. They realize that he's outshining a lot of the other besides Kongma, and they just need to continue to tweak him and work on him. I couldn't tell you what to change on Lucian right now to make him strong. I think it's really that double attack. That just makes him too strong. That was
actually mentioned by somebody on Twitter too, who plays Lucian at a high level. They said that they think they just need to put a bigger gate on the cooldown on his.
I could see that. Passive. I don't want them to remove it altogether, but yeah, putting a gate on it might help. I think part of it is that his piercing light. Yeah, his Q, the scaling on it improves as the game goes on. It starts out at 60% of your bonus AD and it gets to 120%. I don't know of any other abilities offhand that work that way. But that's like, for something with a 5-second cooldown to scale that well with bonus AD as the game goes on and everything, like that's going to play a big role in why a champion gets so strong.
Does removing the removal of slow on his dash change Lucian quite a bit?
It makes it so Nasus can fuck him up.
Thematically, the idea behind him was he's supposed to be a very mobile champion. They want him, that's the emphasis. It comes from, removing slows. He's got the dash. He gains movement speed when Ardent Blaze hits stuff. And then he can move while he's casting his ult. Like, thematically, that affects him. That and otherwise, then it just becomes a dash. Just a dash that does nothing else. It's
a dash that gives you 2 auto attacks.
Yeah, it's
and it gives you 2 auto attacks, but compared to all other marksman dashes, it's very underwhelming at that point.
It's
Caitlyn
Graves dash without the Graves.
has a
Hers has damage and a slow.
Yeah,
he has the
Hers
attack
damage and
speed
slow.
on the
Tristana's does damage and everything. Graves has attack speed.
Yeah, but it's not even. I mean, I guess the only person out of them that's used for any kind of damage is Tristana. They could theoretically not have that damage on it and still be fine as champions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Corky, you walk through the blaze.
I'm saying
I took 1 damage.
I'm saying in the current state of the game,
is a joke.
I get
in the current state of the game, it's it becomes a very underwhelming ability.
I don't know. I don't mind it. That's probably because at this point I'm sick of him getting out of everything by dashing, and he's no longer slow.
Get rid of the the snare removal and the dash, and give him a bonus to his next passive proc or something off it.
You get 10 damage increase on his passive proc, or make it so the second auto attack does full damage rather than half damage.
I mean, I think that would fix some of it, but who knows what we'll see.
I think you changed the scaling on Piercing Light for how spammable that ability becomes. Because it's a 5-second cooldown, which in and of itself, that ability is dealing a lot of damage, but then because it's such a short cooldown, you get more procs of his passive.
Right.
It's a compounding issue there.
So
maybe just a gate on his passive is really what it takes.
I think that kills him if you put a gate on his passive. I think that just completely kills him. If you had a 2-second cooldown or something, then he's no longer he can't spam his abilities. He has to wait for cooldowns.
Okay, so then he turns into somebody like Riven, who you wait, or he needs to auto attack once before he can get his passive off.
Every auto attack reduces the cooldown of his passive by.
You could do something like that, yeah. Or even he has to get a regular auto attack before he gets the double shot off. So you get the double shot, you auto attack, you get the double shot again. Sort of like how you shouldn't just be. That wouldn't affect abilities.
Him much in laning, but
I actually wonder with the
game.
Theme of the champion if moving reduced the cooldown of it, or
like a Yasuo sort of thing.
If that'd be kind of cool. An added flow bar to it, where if the flow, you wouldn't get rid of mana, he would just have another bar. Which obviously they had to change the UI to do that. I guess it would be a ticking. It would be a ticking passive.
It would just be like the static shift.
But he moves around, and now he gains his 2 auto attacks by moving around.
The passive becomes speed of light, and whenever he moves, it
and then using abilities add to that charge.
Yeah,
right. That's interesting ideas. I don't want to sit here.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Okay, let's talk about Maokai because we spent a lot of time on Lucian.
We talked a lot about Maokai.
Mm-hmm.
Couple.
Well, let's go back and just kind of talk about our thoughts on the changes and what actually made it through, anything that didn't make it through. Arcane Smash cooldown has been reduced, mana cost has been reduced. Twisted Advance now does percentage of target's maximum health when it hits. It's on a 6-second cooldown. It's on a 13, 12, 11, 10, 9 second at max rates on a 6-second cooldown, pretty much with the CDR that you receive. But the range has been significantly reduced to 525 from 650, and there is no more wind-up time when you are using W.
Which is awesome.
We'll get back to that, correct. Sapling now slows an enemy that it hits, or enemies damaged by the sapling explosion are now slowed by 50%, and Vengeful Maelstrom, his ultimate, now follows him. It no longer is
Sapling Toss did have the damage on it reduced to give it that slow, but yeah.
Right.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
But
the big change is everything that happened to W.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big part of him.
Yeah, people, you might argue that Vengeful Maelstrom is the big change, but no, it's really Twisted Advance. No longer having that wind-up time, I think, is huge because somebody cannot reaction your W anymore.
Now you're just stealing my ideas, you son of a bitch.
No, I was,
See,
I was telling Sean
I
about it
think
earlier.
it's like I think it's the cooldown on it being reduced because just the ability for him to the way he can now jump all around the battlefield. And I got a chance. I didn't play him in a real game. I did. It was just a bot game, but I did try him out because I'm a big fan of Maokai. Removing the cast time, it just feels like he is doing it just feels like he's moving to the target faster.
Right.
To people who've been playing Maokai and haven't had a chance to try him out with the changes, it just feels like he's moving faster.
Well, it is
But
a shorter range, so you have less distance to travel.
You notice the range decrease on it if you played a decent amount of Maokai at all. Like it's no longer you can kind of do it whenever you feel like it. Feel like starting a fight, you're going to start the fight. Now it's you're going to telegraph is really what it comes down to because you have to get a lot closer.
So Sean,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to
This
interrupt.
goes into.
I was going to ask Sean a question. Sorry.
Yep. Gotcha.
I mean, I was going to say the flip side is that now, because it now deals percentage of life damage, you don't have to jump on the squishy in the back line to start a fight. You can jump on a tank in the front and still deal meaningful damage because if nothing else, and you've got your ult going, so that's a lot of damage mitigation. So if nothing else, the opponent team is going to respond to you. You should be able to survive whatever upfront burst they have, and then team fight, go.
Sean, Quill Coat, which is the item we're going to talk about here shortly.
Gotcha.
Would you just build a Quill Coat on him and then upgrade into Boots of Moby?
That's exactly what I did when I played the game.
You can. I would say that'd actually be a really smart thing. The nice thing with Maokai, I would say Boots of Moby or Swiftness Boots. Moby's so good, and they've always been amazing on Maokai just to get him in a position where he can get in with his W. That extra speed is going to be even more important now with the difference
But with the price cost and how long it'll take you to get that item after you purchase Quill Coat, it's still 10 minutes in the game before you have your Mobies. If you don't get any ganks off, is it worth it?
I have yet to try it, so I can't tell you anything about that. I think it'll be good. My biggest gripe with the issue with I don't think he's going to be as big of an engage sort of character as he was previously. He's going to be way more of a peeler. So I mean, he has always been a support tank, but he was a support tank who could just go in and engage and kind of do his thing, zone people with his ult, throw his ult behind him, keep the AD carry safe while he just was an annoyance. Now he's going to be peeling way more. You are incentivized with the change in his W doing max health damage. If their tank or their bruiser is going in and just beelining to your AD carry, you're going to do a lot of damage to them if you can use your W borderline on spam when they're trying to kill your carry.
Sure.
And if you can do that, like 30, you're doing 30% of their health and damage within 6 seconds. That's a significant burst of damage. And if you're building CDR and whatnot. But that difference can be that makes all the difference when it comes to your AD carry being able to kill a bruiser that's on them or anything like that. The other thing is with the change to his W, anybody who's played a lot of Maokai dreads when you go to W in on some target to get them within range and slow them, stun them, root them within range of your team to kill, and they flash and they're like, "Oh hey, you just flashed into your
now you're
team
deep into enemy territory and
now you're dead." And you could definitely see when that was going to happen. You use W, the enemy who's going to be able to flash away can see that you just used W because there's wind up time on it. Now with the removal of that wind up time, it's not going to be as easy to predict that. You can say that it's going to be easier to predict because they run up toward you, but if they run up toward you,
it's not going to be easy to dodge.
Right.
You're going to tell you're going to tell what Maokai wants to do, but you're not going to be able to dodge it if he really wants to get it done.
And I have another gripe, just because of a conversation I read on Twitter earlier about somebody saying that you won't end up leveling W early. I still think you'll max Q first. But there's always been like a big debate on whether you get W, like put points into W or E second.
Why would you even put points in E?
That's exactly it. You don't put more than 1 point to E, even if it's a slow now.
Well, no,
because
You would put points in E because it scales incredibly well,
with
and
ability power.
It does scale incredibly well.
No,
with
that's
ability power.
that's all I'm saying. If
But
you're
you're
not
going on a
building
damage
ability
focus,
power.
that's the only reason you would.
Right. And the other issue is sapling toss is on a really long cooldown.
It is.
You don't get off more than maybe 2 sapling tosses during an entire
And it
gank
didn't
or
do
team fight or
anything
anything like
before.
that. And it's not really consistent in the fact, like, it doesn't blow up on the person you want it to all the time. You're going to put points into W second, not only because you're going to be able to zip around and be an annoyance, and
Yeah, not because
you're
the
going to
cooldown
use it
is
way
reduced.
more.
It's because the cooldown is reduced. That's why you're putting
Exactly.
every rank gives you more less and less.
And it's
more
going
and
to
more
do a
cooldown,
lot of damage, just percent health damage now.
Yeah,
That's
it's 9,
disgusting.
10.5, 12, 13.5, 15%.
That's a
maximum health.
I could
Every hit
see
maximum health, not current maximum.
people being just giant assholes and doing the old thing you used to do with Elise and getting like a haunting guys early just so you could get more burst damage out. It gives you health. It gives you a little bit of ability power. It's going to be a pain in the ass.
I want to point to something that was said in chat about building Mercury Treads on Maokai. I don't feel like Mercury Treads are needed as often anymore. We talked about it on the last podcast, especially on Maokai. Who cares if you get stunned? You jumped in W and then slowed them. More than likely, you're going to either have an E or Q off by the time that they land that stun on you, because your cast is going off, and you will have them rooted. And then even while you're doing that, you can press R while you're flying in the air and turn your R on. Yep. So you are going to get one of your 3 abilities off, and each one of those abilities is going to help you in some way or the other. So having that stun reduction on a tank who isn't doing that much damage and besides his initial burst really isn't worth picking up Mercury Treads.
And besides that, he's probably 21 deep in defense, right?
That's how I always play.
I would probably go 21-9, to be honest with you. I don't really see any reason to go
you
21
could
at anybody anymore.
You could go 21-9. I honestly could see him being played with like a bigger support tree build too.
Yeah.
Just that extra move speed was going to help him get in a range with his W.
And with Quill Coat giving you so much extra, we need to talk about that next.
We need to skip everything and go to that. We've been
all right. Well, let's talk about Quill Coat. Then. Yeah. I know, and we only have 15 minutes left or 10 minutes.
That's why we gotta
talking about so many changes.
There's a lot.
Well, we'll go beyond an hour if we have to, because there's so
we can go back to Maokai even after the break and everything once
I can play the shit
once
out
you've
of
played with him. Yeah,
I forgot to mention that. Remind me to mention at the end of this podcast that there is no Monday podcast next week or Wednesday podcast next week. Totally.
Or you done it, so we don't need to bring it up anymore.
Well, I'll bring it up at the end to remind people. Only one podcast next week. Let's talk about Quill Coat. Hunter's Machetes had its gold price increased to $325. The damage reduction is 5 damage reduction versus monsters. It now has plus 10 attack damage versus monsters. No longer maim and butcher.
This change, I think the biggest part of it is that you're going to get a Hunter's Machete, and now you can't get 5 pots. You're only going to be getting 4.
Well, it hurts.
Actually, I don't think that's the biggest change.
I think it hurts.
I do think that's big, but
it's really big, especially if you load up on 2 potions before you go to gank.
This gives people like Master Yi and whatnot a little bit more of an advantage, and just auto-attacking junglers gives a little bit more of an advantage early. Only early. We're talking first clear early, and it hurts some of those AoE junglers first clear early by a little bit. I would think it maybe 10 seconds max.
See, I think it helps most of the junglers except for like the really heavy attack speed ones because of the way they shifted defense on it. Before whatever maim or butcher, whatever it was, before it used to give you 5 health back every time you auto attacked. Now you have 5 damage reduction incoming against all of the monsters and everything. So that's a big shift.
That's fine, but you're going to spend more time sitting there to kill
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is there were champions who...
Well,
it does affect
a big one where she
it does affect like the AoE type champions and everything, so Mumu Sejuani and that type of thing, but there were a lot of champions who weren't dealing, that massive AoE damage who like were taking a lot of extra...
It's one of those where it helps and it hurts, but I still think it hurts more than it helps just by it reduces the amount of time it takes them to clear it. The first clear by a little bit.
Clears are slower, but you're safer, is what it comes down to.
Sure.
That's what it comes down to. And that's fair if you're going to make that type of trade and everything. It really just favors those tanky junglers even more now. Like, it helps them a lot.
I just don't want to argue the way you're saying it. It's not that I'm arguing the point. Just I don't think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a moot point. Let's talk about Quill Coat. So Quill Coat is a new item that builds on Hunter's Machete and Cloth Armor with 75 gold. Total cost is 700 gold. It gives you plus 20 armor. And now it has Sapping Barbs. Attacking monsters lose 5% of their maximum health over 3 seconds. Up to 150. Wearer gains plus 40 health regeneration per 5 seconds, plus 30 mana regeneration per 5 seconds when in combat with these monsters. And it has a ward on it. I think that life that you gain back is probably the biggest part about this.
It's huge.
You can go to camps at like 90 HP and you're going to live. It's not you're going to leave. You leave camps more often than not with more HP than you had going into the fight.
Right. Yeah, this helps out some people. This helps out Zach a ton. Sejuani's gonna be a little better. She's not gonna be great by any means, but it's gonna be a little better. Like you said, once you get Quill Coat, those junglers that we just talked about before suddenly got way better after their initial clear because now
Mumu was good,
gonna be way
still
safer.
Good, even better.
Yeah.
This especially makes Zach better if you include the change that they. Yeah, it makes Maokai better, but if you include the change that they made on Zach too, that really helps his jungle a ton.
And I mean, like, just another side note, because it also affects Spirit of the Ancient Golem. You know, that ward is a big deal. It means that you can clear red camp and, in theory, just go straight back to base to heal and upgrade to Quill Coat. Now you have a ward, you can switch to Sweeper.
Oh, yeah. And we talked about last patch about how I've been getting Sweeper more and more often.
You know, I mean, like, Spirit of the Ancient Golem, Spirit of the Elder Lizard and Spectral Wraith don't have wards on them, and, like, they're just going to reach a point where they got to put on there just to keep parity with the other jungle items.
There's no point to build any of those other items now besides between Feral Flare. But here's the thing, Feral Flare, you have to upgrade it to get that ward. Now with Quill Coat, you don't have to, so what's the point of building Feral Flare junglers anymore?
You have to upgrade it to Wriggles, not to Feral Flare.
Right. But still, what's the point of building it? Because Spirit of the Ancient Golem doesn't take time to get up there. You just have to spend 2,000 gold or total cost 2,000 gold to get it.
It's so funny that Spirit of the Ancient Golem goes from the item that nobody wants to build to the item that
we talked about it patches ago. Or
that was the first thing I said when Feral Flare came out. I mean, it's not even that Feral Flare is so great. It's that Spirit of the Ancient Golem is now terrible.
Right.
And now Spirit of the Ancient Golem is really good, and Feral Flare is pretty trash in comparison to it. Because you can build now you will pick a supporty jungler, like even Jarvan could build this and still.
Yeah, I mean, like the timing of this couldn't be better. We're already in that free utility meta.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, okay, now you should be playing tanks always because there's no better choice.
Which is such, we talked about it before, it's just hilarious. People bitch that they couldn't carry out of the jungle, and now people are bitching that they can't support out of the jungle. So we're having supports come back, and now again we're going to see people are going to bitch because they can't carry out of the jungle, and then the top laners, and da-da-da-da-da, and everything's going to get affected, and it's going to be this big giant fucking circle.
You're never going to make everybody happy. This is just
we found that out
another
on the
piece of
podcast
that
today with people bitching about when we do our ads.
Yep.
Excuse me for annoying you with my podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, Spirit of the Ancient Golem. Now you don't have to upgrade it by killing 25 monsters to get that extra that giant ward, or the hunter's ward, and which makes it leaps and bounds better than Feral Flare because you don't have to spend time in the jungle anymore. Now you spend time ganking and affecting lanes and taking dragons and whatnot. You're not spending.
Which you wanted to do on these types of champions anyway, so that's...
Right. And so you've essentially killed Nocturne by now giving everybody tons of extra armor in the jungle and making it even harder for them to be counter-jungled because you have so much extra armor.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're just going to get Feral Flare and Spirit of the Ancient Golem and Nocturne and say, fuck it.
I don't think you can.
I'm going to do it. I don't even know if you're allowed.
Quill Coat
Quill Coat. Fuck it.
Because Quill Coat doesn't have one of those gold passives on it.
Right. Well, we talked about Zach. Zach now Unstable Matter. Picking up a Chunklet reduces the cooldown of Unstable Matter by 1 second. That's his W, which is a spammable ability. And a new passive on it where whenever Zach hits a jungle monster with Unstable Matter, he can walk through the jungle monster to pick up Chunklets.
Which is really awesome. And they basically just...
He can walk through them. The goal is to pick up chunklets. Like, that's why they tell people in the patch notes. But if you need to just get the fuck out of there for reasons, now you have
the ability
Dom,
to.
It's reasoned.
Well, there's so many
reasons.
There's so many reasons.
Well, if it was Chira, it would be, well, if someone's attacking you or if somebody came to invade you. And Dom's like, if reasons.
I'm not gonna list them.
bad for explaining things. Dom just shortens.
I'm not gonna list them.
God.
Yeah.
Sorry that I annoyed you with my explaining. I am. Yeah. All right. So Ziggs movement speed has been decreased to 325 from 330. Not that big of a nerf. Still needed it.
We skipped Yasuo, which you
We're
excited
We're gonna
about.
get back there. Bouncing bomb explosion.
We skipped a ton.
Explosion trigger detection radius has been to 150 to 180, which
They basically
usually be more
narrowed his
accurate
bomb.
with your Q.
They basically narrowed his bomb sort of like they did with a Nidalee spear. Now you have to be way more precise to be able to do damage with it.
No, that's awful. That's terrible. You have to try to hit it.
Having played more mid lately, I've noticed that Ziggs his Q is like pretty forgiving. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so Yasuo sweeping blade. It only 50% at 2 stacks rather than 100% at 4.
where was this enthusiasm 57 minutes ago?
Fuck off.
Seriously.
This
Your
one
voice may
actually
have
makes
not
me
cracked.
so happy because he could just dash through the enemy wave, what do you want to call it, and gain 100% extra damage.
And swing back and fuck you up.
And now he can only do it twice and gain 50%. So it's a 50% nerf. And I think this is one of the best changes to Yasuo that could ever happen because it puts him a little bit more in line to not be that giant asshole assassin in mid lane. And if you go top lane with it, there is some counterplay that can happen because you're not being chunked for so much of your life early. That was the problem. Like, he should be really good late. He should not be doing so much damage as he was doing now.
I mean, it kills his all-in potential at level 2, basically.
Thank God.
Yeah, which is awesome, unless you're playing Tryndamere and they're going to be dumb and blow everything, and your jungler is a Skarner and he just camps your lane from there on out. Then it's okay.
Speaking of, Skarner did get
Adam.
changed.
Yeah, Skarner did get changed.
Skarner. So Crystal Slash, damage reduction, bonus magic damage reduction, and bonus movement speed reduction.
They reduced it by 10 for each.
No, it starts at 2, gets down to 10.
Yeah.
It's not a huge nerf early.
No. It's a bigger nerf late game, which is okay.
He's doing too much damage. Like I build Skarner pure attack. I never build defensive items on Skarner, and because I'm a goddamn man.
You're an asshole is what you are.
Unless you count Iceborne Gauntlet as a defensive
It's a defensive item.
Nope, offensive. I'm slowing you and pulling you in and doing damage because I have
Slow
sheep
and pull,
proc.
the old slow and pull.
Yeah, the old slow and pull.
Slow and pull.
They also reduced his bonus move speed from getting Qs off by 1% at all ranks.
He kind of
But
needed it though.
that's 6%. Who cares? Like that's.
Yeah, right.
I don't
Who
even think
cares?
that's noticeable. Like, I mean, maybe it's noticeable over like a long distance, but in the short range, it's not that big of a deal.
Has everybody else just thrown in the towel for this podcast?
No,
that's what happened at this point. I feel like
This is the best. Vladimir had his W changed. You can use summoner spells and
Thank
Zonia's while you're in it.
God. Zonia. I can't wait to see a big pool, Zonia pool.
A giant golden plate sitting in the middle of a lane. So he's invincible while he's invincible. Sounds wonderful.
I just like that you can
Go
press
steal
Ghost
Vlad.
now when you press
Go
W.
steal Vlad.
Yeah, that makes Vlad be able to get out of so much more because you don't have to press Ghost first. You can actually be in your troll pool and like, oh, I'm going to die, press Ghost.
Yeah.
What is the bug that you guys keep saying he has that they seem
He
to
doesn't
never
gain the healing
fix?
on his E.
Yeah, he didn't get the bonus healing on his E. Like every time you get a stack of E, it used to it's supposed to increase the amount of healing.
Yeah, I
he
know what
gets.
it's supposed to do.
It wasn't for a long time. I still don't
Is
know
it-
if they fixed that or not.
So, okay.
Yeah, I haven't
So
heard
we
anything
don't-
about it. I don't think they've even acknowledged that it happened.
They
so
haven't.
maybe-
The weird thing is sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, according to some people. So I have no idea what to think. Plus, he's getting a cool new skin soon, but that doesn't matter because I have Bloodlord and fuck every other
I
skin.
am the blood man.
What, you
Blood
have
Man.
base Vlad skin?
Yeah,
that you
the
No,
put-
I have the legendary one.
you have-
All right,
you have-
guys.
Yeah,
so
you have
that
face
was
Vlad
episode
skin.
175 of the Trinity Force podcast. Guys, I didn't say this earlier, but we are not here on Monday. That is the Monday the 7th. We are not here. You will not get a podcast on Wednesday the 9th because we are not here. We are going to enjoy our weekend. To end this with a pun, Chira and I are going up to Elevator Brewing Company on Thursday. So we're going to go get drunk. And then Friday, we're going to go down to Midtown and get drunk. And then Friday night, we're going to watch fireworks drunk. And I'm going to be recovering for like 4 days.
Sounds
Because
wonderful.
I'll be drunk.
And I'm going to a family reunion, sort of.
Skip it and come hang out with us.
Yeah, come hang out with us. We're going to get punched to do it too.
Okay, so I said sort of because technically it's a funeral, so I can't skip it.
Oh.
That's why, yeah. Now
Okay.
don't you feel like an asshole?
Nope,
I
don't
don't.
care. Guys, thanks for listening to episode 175 of the Trinity Force podcast. We hope you enjoyed our patch 4.11 discussion. Well, you know,
The Claude will hopefully be back.
Yeah, I needed like a punchline where you know how like Red Green had if women don't find you handsome, they may as well find you handy. We need something about how we may not always be right, but shut up.
That wasn't good. You should be
I looked at
embarrassed.
Dom.
Yeah,
this is funny.
we need the Claude back.
Yep.
I can't,
Adam
I
can't be
fill
two
the
people.
shoes. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
fill all the shoes. I need help to carry this. But see you guys next week.